Globalization and migration are driving highly diverse populations together, creating immense stress tests for local governance and public administration. We can see this friction clearly in Thailand's Tok province, along the Myanmar border. Here, administrators of the Mae Charao school group operate in profound geographic isolation. The topography is only the first barrier. These administrators manage a highly fragmented demographic ecosystem, bringing Karen, Loa, Hmong, Shan, Burmese, and Chinese communities into single classrooms. When standard, uniform administrative policies meet communities separated by severe linguistic and socioeconomic divides, the traditional systems of governance often fail to function. To navigate these pressures, administrators adopt culturally responsive leadership, a framework that balances interpersonal empathy with adaptive administrative systems. Managing these border schools requires directors to mediate between entirely distinct cultural realities while maintaining the necessary standards of public education. A 2026 empirical study by Singcom and colleagues mapped exactly how Thai school directors function under these specific conditions. The research team utilized a mixed-method sequential explanatory design. This provides a two-step diagnostic framework used to identify institutional friction points and develop evidence-based solutions. Phase 1 surveyed 62 active administrators, measuring their cross-cultural leadership capacity across 4 distinct pillars: transformational leadership, empathy, communication competence, and trust building. Phase 2 then brought in 5 educational experts. Their objective was to analyze the survey results and propose targeted structural interventions for the specific deficits identified in the first phase. This sequential approach uses data to identify where institutional friction occurs, providing a targeted basis for the expert-led interventions in the second phase. The quantitative data reveals a surprising baseline. Despite the harsh operational environment, the overall cross-cultural leadership capacity of these administrators scored high, with a mean of 4.52 out of 5. This radar chart shows where that strength is concentrated. Empathy and trust building plot highest, reaching 4.65 and 4.62. Drilling down, the highest scoring indicator lies within empathy, the ability to listen equally without discrimination, scoring 4.76. In remote schools where physical infrastructure and financial resources are chronically limited, interpersonal empathy acts as the primary social glue for the institution. Administrators leverage ethical behavior and transparent daily practices to keep their staff motivated and the surrounding communities stable. The data confirms that these leaders bring immense personal goodwill to their roles. They hold highly fragmented institutions together through emotional intelligence and moral integrity. However, the data also isolates a critical operational vulnerability. Communication competence scored the lowest across the board, with the mean dropping to 4.29. This reveals a limitation of interpersonal empathy. Good intentions do not automatically translate across ethno-linguistic barriers. Within that dimension, the lowest metric is the ability to convey knowledge directly to culturally diverse staff, scoring just 4.03. When administrators struggle to communicate clearly, linguistic boundaries lead to misaligned expectations and frequently hinder the execution of educational policy. A secondary weakness emerged within the transformational leadership data. Administrators reported a distinct struggle to adapt their practices to rapid societal and social changes. This creates a competency paradox. Local leaders are highly trusted and deeply empathetic, yet they lack the structural mechanisms to pierce cultural communication barriers. The persistence of these communication gaps suggests that administrators need formal institutional support to translate their high empathy into effective policy execution. To solve this, Phase 2 of the study leveraged 5 senior educational experts to engineer targeted solutions for the precise communication gap mapped in the survey. The first required structural intervention is formally deploying bilingual staff and local interpreters as vital cultural mediators. In these border schools, language translation is an essential administrative function. It must be elevated into a permanent, institutionalized role. The experts also mandated diversifying communication channels. Administrators should blend in-person meetings, digital platforms, and written notices to bypass potential linguistic failures. Furthermore, leaders have to adapt their discourse formats to specific ethnic norms. Some minority communities respond better to formal consultation, while others rely on informal, localized dialogue to build consensus. In multicultural environments, communication competence depends on building flexible administrative pathways that facilitate understanding regardless of the leader's own linguistic background. To address the deficits in adaptability, the experts recommended mandating continuous cultural immersion for school leadership. Administrators lead effectively by active participation in local religious ceremonies, public events, and community festivals. This visible presence builds essential baseline credibility. It authenticates the leader's empathy in the eyes of the ethnic minority communities they serve. The experts then focused on upgrading trust building, moving the school from a reliance on interpersonal relationships to a framework of systemic, institutional transparency. Building systemic trust requires transparent work schedules, explicit role definitions, and task delegation that aligns with the specific cultural strengths of the staff. To sustain accountability in this diverse environment, administrators implement regular performance monitoring, constructive feedback loops, and public recognition of staff achievements. Effective administration formalizes personal empathy into transparent, predictable systems. This ensures institutional fairness remains intact for all stakeholders. The implications of this study extend beyond the Meicheral border. These findings directly impact the success of Thailand's National 4.0 initiative and the broader economic integration of the ASEAN community. As global migration accelerates, educational models in many districts will increasingly face these multicultural pressures. This diagram outlines the path forward. Individual empathy provides the necessary foundation, while systemic adaptability serves as the engine of educational equity. Modern school administrators facilitate cross-cultural unity by bridging the gap between national policy and local community needs. Successful public administration treats cultural diversity as a foundational reality to be integrated into the architecture of the institution.